Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the TheCivShow podcast. We suck, so you do not have to. I'm your host, Boesthius.
Raising Zozo.
In the Stagnus.
And we have the wonderful, adorable, look at this man, Boesthius. How you doing, buddy? How's it going?
Yeah, what an intro. I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
Special little man.
Special little man. Aw.
It took a long time for us to get that down. We still don't have it down, that intro, so bear with us on that one, because you saw how long Zoe took for him to respond. It was like a good,
that was pretty
good chunk amount of time.
Throwing Zoe under the bus
He
there.
was building suspense, Moy. Come on, give him some credit.
Anyway, last Sunday, we also featured Boast as a guest on the show. We played the Pirates scenario, and we all gave you a little bit of a surprise, as well as the Pirates took over the stream.
Yar.
Yar! It's still got yar! Let's,
mine too. Yeah,
let's
right here.
mosey.
Yeah, right here.
I already put mine away.
So,
You know, when
go ahead.
I first became the Dread Pirate Zozo, or the Pirateer Zozo, I didn't realize my hat was still on. So like I just in rushing, I threw it on top of it, and then it wasn't until a little. I was like, oh my god, my hat is still on.
So I want to raise the question. We'll start with you, Bose. How did you enjoy, and how did you like the Pirates scenario? Is there any feedback that you would give on it? Some pros and cons. Like, how did you overall feel about the Pirates scenario?
It was good. It was a lot of fun. I had way more fun than I thought I was going to, if I'm going to be honest. I'm not a huge scenario person. It's really funny because every time I say that, Carl pops into chat and is like, "You haven't even played Red Dead. Shut up." I'm like, sorry. But I know it was a lot of fun. I think some, like, the only thing that I can think of to be improved is just to make it longer, like make it at least 90 turns, like 90 turns minimum. Because even though I think in our last game, Carl, as he says it right now, you haven't even played any bows. Making it at least 90 turns, I think, would be best, because the like you hit 50 turns, you're like, oh, I'm just getting into the groove of this game. So I think that's the only criticism that I have. But everything, it was a lot of fun. I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I think 60 turns, I think, is good. Like, when you first play, sure, it feels short, but I feel like there's like little things you can do, like even in the regular version of Civ, there's little things that you can do just to make yourself really more efficient. Like, there's one game you had over 1,000 points.
That's true,
right?
yeah.
And I'm sure at that point you were like, okay, I kind of have this figured out. I played Dread Pirates a few times. We just couldn't figure out the privateers, and it did take Carl and Borderline to play them, and
I'm not convinced, Carl. I'm still not convinced. I think they still need some work, especially the learning curve.
What
I died on turn 7. Turn 7, Carl. Turn 7. I felt like turn 7, but maybe it was a little longer. But
I think there could be like a choice between the 60 and 90 turns, maybe, because one of the things I think is great about the 60 turns is that it's still flushed out, and it kind of goes against like what everyone's immediate assumption is about a Civ game in general. Like, what does Civ usually do? Oh, this is going to be a time commitment, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to just go and play a game for, and play it in 2.5 hours or something like that. And this one is a little bit different than that. It allows you to have much less of a time commitment, but still have a lot of fun, right?
And I do commend Civ for that. Like, Civ is a very involved game, and it's just the nature of a turn-based strategy game. Right. So to have a pick me up game, but I got two questions. Okay, one, viewers that were there, how surprised were you? Okay, those in the chat right now, how surprised were you that we suddenly got boarded by pirates? Okay, because some of them were like, I knew it. But I hope you guys like that.
Which is the universal response of everyone who's surprised by something that happened, right? I knew it. You didn't trick me. I knew it was going to happen.
And number two, because I see Carl's here, I need to ask him this, Carl. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the YouTube recently, but it looks like some people have figured out that those hoarders, they're going to need some adjusting. Apparently, Carl, you can spawn infinite crew, Carl. with the horde. I think that's an exploit that any of them can use.
Any of them can use.
And then as we saw with this video by names escaping right now, I guess he likes doing.
Spiffing
all
Brit,
right. We saw that the hoarders are super duper broken because of this unlimited crew spam that got him all the relics, and he was making crazy money, and the game was he had fun. It would not have been fun if we were in that game and Moy had figured that stuff out, because he loves exploits like that.
I don't know.
Maybe you just don't know how to have fun, though. I didn't win a single game. I had fun every single time.
I know. Listen, Agnes, I invented losing as fun. Okay. Okay, I invented that.
It's because you lose all the
time. You invented it, but I live it. I live
it. You molded it. I was molded by it.
Yeah, I was molded by it, man.
So both of those, in a way, I think were rhetorical questions, so not real questions. But
yeah, I agree with.
I think they were surprised.
The maybe like being able to choose between like 60 and 90 or something along those lines, just to make the games. Because you're right, those first couple games were really fast. Then I think the last game I played, the last 20 turns did take like a good 15 to 20 minutes, because I think we were finally figuring out, we have some strategies now. So I think maybe playing it some more would have been figuring that the games would have taken longer on average.
Mm-hmm.
Game takes less time when you just aimlessly point your boat in different directions and stuff, right?
Or when you're just constantly attacking boats the entire game.
So honestly, I don't know if we can. What else about pirates? That's all I got.
I don't know. I just think it's a really good idea. Like, I remember I thought, like, when they announced it, honestly, I'll be really brutally honest. I was like, I don't care. Like, even in my my like update video that I saw, like where I did a reaction to it, I was like, this is cool. I'm glad they're doing it. I don't care. I played it. I had a lot of fun, and I'll play it again. Like, I'll continue to play it again. It's just one of those things that took me completely by surprise, where normally I'm just like, I'm not that demographic. Like, my esports background, I just want to do everything as competitive as possible. Even though I don't play in like, CPL or anything like that. But
speaking from like an esports perspective, right? I think it's something that Civ needs as an option, because like, again, I'm always going to go back to this because it's my game, right? StarCraft. Like you can just jump on the lap. Right, so that's always like really good. But with Civ, if you played online multiplayer, the game takes forever, right? So it doesn't have that same flexibility. And I think these other scenarios that they're trying to mix in gives that extra, like, hey, I have a quick hour, I want to maybe hammer out a game with some friends and stop playing. As opposed to like, let's play and then save the game, and then do the thing we all did in the 90s when we were like before computers, with like, who's going to guard the risk board while we all come back like next weekend to play, right? And then you have to like have video, somebody to take pictures of it, and then like none of that stuff, right? So I think it's a great idea to have like a shorter kind of piecemeal game that you can play.
On an unrelated note, sorry, speaking to your risk comment, me and some buddies had a game of the Axis and Allies Masters Edition that had like the massive boards going for months in a dude's shed. And like we'd take, and it would take a night, would be one turn, because of what you had to do across the board. Oh, I miss board games. I do. Like,
they haven't gone anywhere, man. Like...
If you're, I know, but if you're a turn-based strategy player, I find you, because you have that patience and that dedication to seeing the end of the game, you often will love board games,
right?
And a lot of the best board games those that love games like Civ would love are games that take 8 to 10 hours or more to complete. And if you can find a group of friends that have the stamina and are into it, that's the critical part. Is that your attention span is like, I'm excited, we've been playing for 8 hours and I care still to sit down here. I really do miss that. And yes, Stagmus, you're right. They're out there. You can still play them. We just can't play them together. That will how we know we're all out of this, guys. We come together. We'll go visit Bose.
There we
go. We're going to LA. It's on the TheCivShow. Okay, it's on the TheCivShow because
business expense.
Business expense. We'll bring Twilight Imperium and we'll just stream a 10-hour game.
Right.
Oh
and we'll show everyone our amazing attention spans.
Let's do it like right outside of Universal, since I live like not too far away from that. So
hey, look at that.
Wherever you want to set up the table.
Right.
So I want to raise the question to Bose. Does the positive experience you have with Pirates open the idea of you playing more scenarios in the future?
Probably not, as like I still mostly want to play single player deity. Right. So like it's not going to be like a thing where I will play, like if they release another scenario, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to play that for 40 hours or whatever. Like I'll still be like, oh, this is okay. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
For you, because I know like how much you love war and you love combat, I would recommend the Alexander one.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, it's not like Civ. Like you know what I mean? Like it's you have to conquer, I don't know how many exact cities, but maybe it was like 20 to 30 cities in like 37 turns. And it's a really, really big map. And I would recommend it. And on deity, you have to beat it in like 37 turns. So
geez, that's okay. That'll be good. That'll give you like some practice too for like just like purely domination, I guess.
Yeah,
I've probably played.
There's some like skills that you can kind of carry over, but it's like you're limited to building, I think, like the swordman and the horse of Alexander, like in archers and catapults, like classical era units, and then you can't build any districts or anything except for encampments. And you kind of have to just figure out like what's the most efficient way of doing it. So you're doing like projects in your last cities because you can't even build units because they can't get to the front line in time because it takes like 20 turns for them to move all the way out there. So like it's kind of like microing that way. Yeah, you should try it. Borderline is also recommending Black Death is where
Black
it's
Death.
at. Yeah,
that's what everyone says. I said
that
Red
one
Death
is like really, I heard
Black Death. Yeah, we know this on the Civ show. We sort of explore Civ. We might have started being like, oh, we're going to be slightly competitive, but really what we do is we explore the game.
Yeah.
So I think we will try more scenarios or even mods. Okay, mods.
Yeah. There are certain people in our community who would be very happy to see that.
Have you tried any modded Civ?
Yeah. Now, okay, Here's something that I'd like to say about. Oh, okay, never mind. I was something about the pirate game. Are we still talking about the pirate game?
Go for it. Yeah, screw my. I'll ask it later. Just whatever, man. Just kick me off.
No.
I'm done here. I'm leaving.
Listen, Moy. Okay. Oh Moy. Don't pull a Zoe on us, Moy. Okay, that's my line. That's my line. Go, Moy. Ask your question. I interrupted.
No. I'm done. No. I'm here to relax, dude. I'm like, look, chair back, like all you, buddy. Go for it,
baby Moy.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh Moy. Look at that Riddler up there. Okay, so here's a feature. There's two features that I really liked that I think would be very remarkable if Civ could somehow export these features, and maybe they will in one of the future Civs. The first is I really liked the idea of the power-up special ability of the ships. Even though the Hoarder's chain ability was just ridiculous.
Oh, like active ability and passive abilities, right?
But the active ability. Yeah. So I like the idea of something, and that takes time to recharge. Right, you'll get it back, but it'll take time to recharge, as opposed to just outright charges. Okay, it's something that's a little bit more powerful. I think that would be really neat to see a unit like that, especially like, I don't know, when I think of units like that, I think of either the spy or maybe the traitor, where as opposed to how they work now, where it's more they just do something cool every 5 rounds, or maybe the engineer, or maybe just a military unit that has a cool thing like that. That it's doing.
What about like the supply convoy?
Yeah, that's what I was
thinking. Where it can like heal people every like few turns or something like that. It can like heal them or something.
Yeah, something like that, or like siege towers maybe get like an ad. Like I thought that was a really cool ability, and it's just basically kind of like a logistical reload. You can't just do it right away. I like that. That'd be cool. Maybe we should keep that. The other one that I really liked was, I know in this particular game, the relics were basically government types. But I really like that idea of, instead of relics being like basically a different type of artwork, which is what they pretty much are, right? Have that they actually do like a unique little ability. I like that. I think that was really neat. And even if they call it something completely different, and maybe there's only like 6 in the game, or it'd be a game mode, right? It'd likely be like a relics game mode where these relics give you a little extra ability. And you can limit it. You can say you can only have so many, or maybe they ate up a wild card slot. But I thought that was really neat, the idea of a relic that gave you a little power. So those two things, I would love to see if maybe there's a Civ they introduce that has a cool unit that does something really strong, but it does it only every 5 turns. I don't know. But that was those are some neat mechanics for sure. What do you think, Bo?
No, I think that'd be cool. I like the idea of that's what I liked about playing Red Death, or playing what was the name of the faction that I played?
Dread Pirate.
Dread Pirate, yes. I almost said Red Death. I was like, that's the name of the scenario. That's what I liked about playing the Dread Pirates, is that their active ability was every like X amount of turns, whenever, to immediately kill the ship when it was below 50 HP. And so I thought that was really, really cool. And the fact that I think it was every 5, I don't remember exactly, but it was X amount of turns. And so, 5. So active abilities like that are always really cool. I think expanding upon that would be neato burrito.
So maybe a more of a closer comparison to what this would be like in Boest, I think you would be able to relate to this, is that, how in Dota they introduced neutral items that is like kind of a chance on
that'd be cool.
Spawn. It's like similar to that, I'm guessing. So it's like you have a chance maybe when you find a relic or not relic, but like a goodie hut. I can't remember what the actual name for that is. It has a chance to give you a wild card, and it's like, here's your ability. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. And then you can like slot it in onto your ship or whatever, like similar to it make it like too complicated at that point. Like, I don't know if anyone's played Anno 1800 or any of the Anno series, but Anno 1800, you can whenever you have your ships, they have like slots for like crew members or whatever, and like the crew members give your ships like boosts, like kind of, some of the cards already do that anyways, the relics do, but like some of the boosts are like, this ship has plus 10 attack damage or whatever, or like this ship has an active ability when this person is installed in it to do like a siege shot that when it normally can't, like stuff like that. So I think like that would be kind of cool to add in to those shipperoos.
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, Boest, we're going to learn a little bit more about you, who you are, and what your community is. You.
We're just gonna need your address, your social insurance number,
your credit card number,
at least one credit card number.
It's not a social insurance number.
It's okay. We're gonna keep it between just us. All right.
Sounds
That's
it.
All right.
Standard TheCivShow procedure.
Yeah, standard.
We'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the TheCivShow podcast. We suck, so you don't have to. I know it surprises you. It surprises you, Zoe, how much you suck. It surprises me too. Every time.
I look in the mirror and I'm just like, man, I'm so glad there's so many people out there who don't have to suck because of this.
Know that feeling.
So, doing the Lord's work.
The good Lord's work, man. So let's get to know our guest a little bit, shall we? Boes, I want to know what your background into gaming is, specifically right now into Team Liquid. You are very proud of your Team Liquid. You rock a Team Liquid hat pretty much every stream. You also have the Team Liquid chair. So tell us a little bit about your background with Team Liquid.
Sure. I mean, I'm not affiliated with them anymore. But as we were talking about, and I've talked about it with other people too, is that I come from the esports background of StarCraft Brood War, and then transitioning into StarCraft 2, and then eventually into League and Dota. But StarCraft Brood War was the main game that I got into, and I started playing it. I played it casually like everybody did, and then eventually when I could, like we talked about last Sunday, how eventually I had dial-up for most of my upbringing, and someday, I don't remember when it was, I was able to play StarCraft Brood War online. And I think at that point, when you're playing casually, you just play like, what is it, 4v4 fastest map possible, and playing big game hunters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, you meet someone who plays the game, like actually plays the game on a competitive level. And that was in 2005 on the roosterteeth.com forums, before they had like when it was just the Rooster Teeth forums. Because I used to be on part of that. I've been part of a lot of communities.
Wow, dude, that's a lot.
2005 Rooster Teeth forums, and there was a StarCraft group there, and I met someone who played on, it was a server called Icy Cup, which was just I know exactly. But it was a Russian ELO server. And he eventually introduced me to Team Liquid, joined the forums, and the rest is history. Started doing participating in the forums, and then eventually people start to recognize your name because you're posting there all the time. And then you start doing, if you're passionate about a game, you start doing things because you want to, like volunteer stuff. And that's what Team Liquid was based on at that time, was just pure volunteer work, because there was no such thing as a paid esports position during that time. And so I used to do, for a while, it was they called them live review threads or live update for threads, because it was about StarCraft in Korea, and people couldn't really watch the games. They'd have to read the update threads on forums, to figure out how this game's going, and people would post in it. And so I used to host those. Then eventually I got into actually doing Team Liquid staff stuff. I was a moderator on the website. I started doing helping update the Twitter when Twitter was first becoming a thing with them, which was 2011, I think, 2010. Helping with the TL Pro Twitter, and then I used to do replay packs for StarCraft 2 when StarCraft 2 came around. So I've been a part of the website for, I think 2006 is my join date. I don't know. I'd have to check. It's been a long time. And so I came from that, and then eventually, as I in StarCraft 2 came along, and as I'd mentioned, I did some stuff there. I eventually tried to go pro in StarCraft 2. Obviously it didn't work out. I was pretty good, though. I was mainly High Masters, but at one season, it was the first season they introduced Grandmasters. I was Grandmasters for a little bit, and then I dropped down and got kicked out. And then I quit because I got carpal tunnel in both of my wrists. So
yeah, you must have had crazy hand speed now.
Yeah.
Most important thing if you're a
Have you
StarCraft
seen
player
Boes play even Civ, dude? This guy's just freaking nuts. He's clicking all over the place, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy is crazy.
Average speed in StarCraft 2 for professional players is 400 actions per minute.
Mine was around 320 or so.
320.
Yeah. Now, most important question for when you play StarCraft: what was your faction?
I was a Protoss player. Everyone calls me a dirty Protoss player.
Yes, I love Protoss.
I played Protoss. Although in StarCraft Brood War, I played PvZ, PvT, and then I played Zerg versus Protoss because I hated playing PvP. So I played Zerg versus Protoss in Brood War. But
PvP is always the really bad matchup that they're trying to make more fun, I guess. But
yeah, kind of. TvT is usually that badass.
That's boring too. That's super slow game. Yeah.
I'm laughing because
I'm a Terran player. I know for sure.
I'm having flashbacks of because I too back in the day, like that was a long time ago, Bose. We're old. I'm also pleased that there's other old people out here. Some of these youngins, man, they make you feel really old. But I remember the dial-up days, and I remember the T1 only. People
exactly.
and I'd be like, I've got that. Like I don't have that.
Only.
I've got the dial-up. But the game did run pretty good.
My very first computer had MS-DOS on it.
Yeah.
Wow. Windows 95.
Yeah.
That Brood War, Brood War caused me to fail a couple classes in high school.
Yeah.
That game in
Brood
particular.
War came out when you were in high school?
Came out in 1998.
Oh my god, I was 4 years old.
You were 4 years old. Look at this.
I was 9, so I wasn't that far
See,
behind.
boy, how I just mentioned how being around you makes me feel really old.
That's funny.
Yes, boy. I played Brood War.
I shared in our Discord. There was a Facebook video someone showed me. It was a bunch of teenagers turning on a computer from the 1990s, right? And it was Windows 95. And one of the kids was like, "Yeah, you turn it on. It's great. It takes forever to boot up. So you just go out, make a snack, come back, and it still hasn't booted up yet."
You kids, you'll never know. You'll never know. You grew up with high speed. You grew up with like you'll never know.
I do.
That sound.
One of them tried to open the internet, and they were like, "Wait, there's no Wi-Fi. So how do you get on the internet?"
I grew up with dial-up, though. Believe it or not, I had it until 2010. Oh, he left. He's that like Rip. I can't even tell you. I can't even tell this guy. Classic. I'm trying to tell him something.
He was so angry that he was older than you that he just left.
Whatever, dude.
Is he still using dial-up? I don't know, man. Like,
maybe. Usually he doesn't take this long to come back either. I'm having some internet issues today.
He's time traveled, and then that's what happened. The internet's crossed, and he got the lower bandwidth.
So I don't know if you know what our demographic is here, Boast, but our demographic is between the ages of 28 and 35. So for those who don't know what esports is and how relevant it is in today's gaming world, like people who only play Civ, they might not understand what esports is. Like people play video games and they make a living out of it. Yes, they do. Tell us a little bit about just esports in general. I feel like you're the most knowledgeable out of everybody here.
I mean, there's obviously multiple games, right? Because there's the main one that everyone probably talks about right now is honestly Fortnite. That's the biggest esport, if anything. Even though in other a premier esports, like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, and stuff like that, Fortnite would still technically be the biggest, just because it's Fortnite. But the general competitive games, there's so many, right? There's League of Legends, Counter-Strike, StarCraft 2, Dota. Like every single type of game that you can think of, and that has a competitive scene. But with that, I always talk about when I always explain this to like my old coworkers when I used to do Team Liquid stuff. Because for a while there, like even a couple years ago, I was like helping out a little bit, but. For example, the Dota 2 International, I always talk to them about that, like especially when it comes to people who have no idea what esports is, and then they say like you can make money about that. I was like, yeah, the first place last year won $16 million, like first place like won $16 million, and I talk about that how it's still funny how you still almost have to have this conversation in 2020 about like. But they're just playing video games, right? And it's like,
can you make that argument about any sport though? Like, hey, you're getting paid money to play football. Hey, you're getting paid money to play hockey.
That's the same thing that I tell them too. And I tell them like, they'll be like, yeah, but we just like throw we throw the football around and stuff. I'm like, yeah, well, if you're playing games casually, that's the equivalent of that, And these people, like, I tell them, I always equate it back to like chess players, like grandmaster chess players, because that's the easiest way to like equivalate like those two between them, right? Like people who are only into traditional sports or don't even really care about sports at all, but like understand how professional athletes are paid and stuff like that. They understand that, chess can be a sport, it can be competitive and stuff like that, and people can get paid to do that. And I say, well, if chess can, on the same terms, video games can, if you use that same type of mentality, right? And so it's insane.
I think
it's
one
insane.
of the biggest differences, though, is that, like, for example, like, let's take hockey, for example. So Alexander Ovechkin is like one of the best players of all time, and he's still at the top of his game. Whereas the turnover rate of like the top players in a video game will turn over very quickly, right? They'll become irrelevant pretty quickly. And so maybe that's why it's harder to follow, because there isn't like a star to kind of grasp onto that's been around for a very long time.
There are some exceptions, but that's like pretty rare. You know, obviously like Faker in League of Legends was probably the biggest one, I would say. Like Faker in League of Legends, Boxer in StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 1.
Fear in Dota, I think.
Yeah, Fear in Dota, even though he was like less of a superstar, but more of just like a household name. Like everyone knew who he was, you know, right? Like I would kind of equivalent like Fear to be like Wayne Gretzky, right? Like Wayne Gretzky like may not be like the best player of all time.
He is the best player of all time, but okay.
okay. I don't know.
If you take away Gretzky,
he may not be.
If we don't have any, if you take away all his goals, he still has the most points out of everybody.
We got no stats. We got no score.
You just said to a bunch of Canadians that Wayne Gretzky's not one of the.
He's from LA, though. Of course, he's gonna love Wayne Gretzky. Okay?
I'm not from LA. I live in LA.
Wayne Gretzky, he played on the Oilers for what, 7 years, and then he was either New York or LA, right, for the rest of it, wasn't it? Something like that. I don't even know anything about hockey, and I know that about Wayne Gretzky. All right, like. It's in our DNA.
Okay, so I hate to interrupt, but Wayne Gretzky, okay, he was this good. If you take, I'll say this again, and I don't know if you heard me or not. If there's a lot of talking around. If you take away every single one of Wayne Gretzky's goals, okay, he's got 0 goals in his entire career. He still has more points, and point is either a goal or assist. He still has more points than anybody else. Ever. He was that good.
You're talking about, like, for the longest time, like, if you get 100 points in a season now, that's like an amazing season. Wayne Gretzky's record is over 220 points in a season.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think, not to, I'm sure you could segue off of that. Do you think that has to do with the caliber of players at that time compared to Wayne Gretzky versus now?
Well, and also the way the game was played. Like, by almost any, and I'm a Canadian saying this, by almost any objective standard, Ovechkin is a better player than Gretzky, and
that's kind of what I meant. Like, you can almost say the same thing with like Michael Jordan and LeBron James, right? It's like the same type of comparison almost, whereas like it's a hard argument to make, but like I think everybody at this point in their time is saying, yeah, LeBron James is better than like Michael Jordan.
I think guys, a fair argument would be that in Civ 6, the Canadians have the hockey rink, and I think the Scottish have the golf course, but the Americans don't have the baseball diamond. What's up with that? There should be a baseball diamond for
regardless,
or an NFL stadium.
It could be. You know, sports is a big deal. It's a big deal, right? It's what we talk about here on the Civ Show.
Yeah,
is whenever we can national sports, NHL, NBA, NBC.
Oh. Yeah,
NBL,
National Basketball Championship. How'd you know? Yeah.
There's the I don't know,
the ABC. Like the American Baseball Conference.
The World Cup of Dodgeball is bigger than the World Series, the World Cup, and World War II combined. Like
combined.
But yeah, esports is a big deal.
Back on topic.
Esports is fine. We could talk about esports. We weren't talking about esports. We were talking about sports, which is a different thing than esports. Bose, back in the day when you were Team Liquid, getting stuff rolling in the esport. I have a bit of an esport background, but it's from the other. It's from the other side of it. It's from the running it side, as opposed to the playing side.
I did running stuff too, a little bit.
My background and it's actually how I know Moy, indirectly, in esports, is I actually ran a video game cafe that eventually transitioned into an esports arena.
Okay. Yeah.
It didn't work out, for a lot of reasons. I could write a book about it. Maybe one day I will. But now we were Xbox esports, so Halo, Call of Duty. Like now, well, we tried to get a Halo Wars going, didn't go. But Civ Revolution, there was interest in Civ Revolution, and I think it was actually a great transition game for people who maybe were into first person or whatever. Like, because like when we did a big promo for it. One day I'll show you a picture. I was dressed as Caesar. Drekken was dressed as Takiwawa, whatever, the Japanese leader. And we ran a big promo for it, and they loved the. It was an Xbox rendition of a turn-based strategy game, which on any console is hard. Anyone who played StarCraft for, I think it was 64. The Nintendo 64.
Worst version of StarCraft ever made.
You know how if it's not SimCity, it's very hard to get turn-based strategy right on a console. But Civ Revolution, they did it. They did a really good job.
It's very different, but it's good.
It is very different. But I almost find that the leaders now remind me more, even in Civ 6.
Yeah.
Remind me more of the leaders from Civ Revolution. They kind of went away from the realism and made them a little more silly, a little more like comic strip. But I think that ultimately worked out really well. But yeah, so I have a little bit of background in esports, but it was that we ran the leagues, we ran the tournaments with consoles, not with computers. But we're cousins. Is what I'm trying to say, Boes.
Distant cousins.
We're cousins. Now I'm cousins with Nystagmus in real life, and now I'm cousins with you. Moy, you gotta get on that. You gotta work on that.
I don't know if I want to be. I don't want to be blood related to you. I'd be ashamed. I made fun of both of you on the same disc. It was pretty sweet.
My Discord's messing up.
So, transition to this topic. Boes, you are now a full-time streamer, right?
At this point, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
how does one, that feel? And two, how do you tell your family what you do for a living?
One, it feels, it's nice. I'm sure that most of you know, like right now I'm actually taking a break for a week.
Yes.
Taking like a break from content creation for a week. I think it's such funny because you recommended me to do that like probably about a week and a half ago. Like you're like, hey, you should take a break. And I was like, I will when I need to, but I think I needed to do it. That's a side note, content creators out there, take a freaking break, man. Yes. Like unless you're doing like, okay, like I love streaming, and it's not that I don't want to stream, like, cause like we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, I want to stream. I want to be talking. I want to be streaming. I feel weird if I'm not streaming, right? But if just do it, like for your mental health, for your sake, like sanity, just do it, because there are aspects of it where you're just like, at some point, all you start to look at are the numbers, and you need to not look at the numbers, because if you constantly obsess over the numbers, you're gonna go crazy. But I mean, other than that, like, it's great. I got very lucky. I know that I've put in I talk about this a lot. Like I have a decent viewership right now, especially for Civ. And I know that I put in a lot of hard work in what I've done. I've been very consistent, like, promoting myself, doing, streaming, all that jazz. And I'm good at the game. So it's like, that's another level that adds to the viewership factor. But I got very lucky. Like, I think luck has to do a lot more than what people think it does when it comes to streaming, or content creation in general. Like, COVID happened. I moved to LA. I'm in a position where I don't have to worry about rent right now, like, or things like that. Like, I'm very, very privileged in the fact that I can be like, hey, I'm going to take a year and try to be a streamer, or at least 7 months. Right. Mm-hmm. And try to be a streamer. And I'm able to do that only because of the position I was in. If I, like, say, for example, I was single, I wasn't living with my girlfriend, I, was still lived where I lived before, and I still work my job, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be, like, streaming and stuff. I'd still be working my job. I'd be streaming, on weekends or whatever after outside my full-time job. But because of the privilege that I have, which I also feel isn't talked about a lot either in streaming, like being able to afford the privilege of just streaming full time 5 days a week, without having to worry about constraints, and getting to the point where you can be self-sustainable is pretty huge. And so that's, I think, with that, and that's also another reason, as to transition to your second point of how do you tell your parents that you do that, right, or your family. I'm very lucky. My family is very supportive of the things that I do. I think we talked about it on Sunday show about my music career. I've and then we kind of touched on it before too, me trying to go pro in StarCraft 2. I've had a very unorthodox life, to say the least. Dropping out of high school to join a band and tour around the US. I dropped out of college, by the way, to do StarCraft 2 stuff. So I dropped out of college after a year and a half because I was like starting to win tournaments and stuff and starting to be pretty good to the point. So I was like, okay, maybe I can actually do this. And so I quit after my third semester because I was like, oh, I'm either going to be failing my classes or playing StarCraft 2.
Did you finish?
So no, I still haven't finished.
Are you going to finish?
Probably not, unless even if I go, because my backup plan, which we can talk about a little bit here, is if streaming doesn't work out, which is that's a possibility. It may happen, maybe at the end of the year or after, like, say, for example, Frontier Pass is done for Civilization and maybe Humankind flops, which I'm actually kind of afraid it will. We can talk about that later too, if you'd like, because I'm a little concerned about Humankind. But if like those things, and I start to peter down, which is fine, it's understandable. Like, not everybody can be a content creator. And I have some background in Moy and I have talked about this before. I've had some background in computer science. And I still have to, I know, I will kind of know Python. I know like the typical web dev, like CSS, HTML5, all that jazz, jQuery and stuff. So if streaming fails, I'll just buckle down, maybe take like I take the money that I've saved up from streaming, go to a boot camp for like 18 weeks or whatever, just to prove that I did something, and then start applying for like low level jobs, like doing computer science stuff. So it's not like it's going to be the end of the world type thing.
I have so many thoughts on everything you just said, but
that was so many topics that I just covered in like 5 minutes,
and it's fine because it's stuff that I look forward to discussing a lot of this with you in the future. I definitely see what you're saying though about if you have the privilege, like if you're in a position where, because I don't think anyone should necessarily quit their day job.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I guess like especially right now we're living in a pandemic. I know a lot of us here in Canada. We had a different sort of approach, and a lot of us are not needing to work right now. So we can go and create content. But I'm amazed, and I think Moy and Nystagmus are in the same position. Like when we look at guys like yourself, look at Van Bradley, like the Voibles, like the sheer amount, the dedication to your craft, how much you're pumping out there. And the consistency of service. Like, and that's, you're an entrepreneur, you're providing a service, you are. And I think I know what you're talking about with luck, that serendipity, and some of that is true, but I also think that there's that sort of spark that definitely you have, that I might stumble across you as I'm looking around, but you keep me there. You keep me wanting, like, you're so my personal, like, I only found out about the wonder that is Bose a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago. But it was, I jumped in, we did a raid we did a raid, and you did this t-shirt game. I'd never heard of this game. I'd never played this game.
I don't even know if Bose remembers that night.
That was my stream.
I had so much fun. And you know what? Like you were keeping us engaged, but like the way that you had it set up, like everyone was talking to each other. And right now we can't. It's hard for people to meet. And now we're really seeing this amazing thing, the internet, that like I felt like I was in the room there with, and there's people from all over the place.
Absolutely.
And like, but you like engaged just the right amount, because you were like talking to us, talking to your stream. And it's not luck. That, my friend, that is skill, that is charisma, that is self-awareness. There's a lot of things. And so I think you would be a model for what I would encourage others to do. when
very high praise.
So
I know what you mean too, and it's like to compound upon that. I've talked about I think I don't, maybe you maybe have been there, Moy, when I went on like an hour and a half long rant about like content creation and like thumbnails and like
yes.
Okay,
you
yeah, it was. I went
it.
on a very long, like it was literally like an hour and a half rant about like content creation and why, because someone had tweeted out being like, don't let people discourage you, like keep grinding, you'll get where you're at. And I saw that tweet and I was like, I hate this tweet. Like this tweet makes me like super upset because yeah, putting in the work and stuff like that is really important. But there, like, how many times have you seen like there are people who this is going to be this is kind of like a really almost not necessarily mean thing to say. This is a hot take. Not everybody can be a content creator. Not everybody can be a streamer. Not everybody can be, stuff like that. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. Like, I want to point that out. It's not a bad thing. Like, not everybody can be that way because there's some people who just like, you sitting in, I don't know, it's hard to say without being like demeaning, and I'm not trying to be demeaning, but like
have an advantage when it comes to because they're
it's funny because I'm like introverted. I'm really introverted. I don't like going out to like social gatherings. I like staying inside. But I feel like I have like I'm sociable enough and I'm socially like aware to understand people. Like, I think it's probably from being in bands for many years, like being able to engage with people. But I feel like that's something like we talked about a ton, like not everybody is built to be a streamer. Not everybody is built to be a movie star. Not everybody is built to be a musician. Not everybody is built to be a rocket scientist. Obviously some of those professions, those are broad stroke generalizations. Some of those professions isn't like talent or anything like that. It's a lot of hard work and dedication and like, improving upon your craft. A lot of artists aren't necessarily talented and that they get raw natural talent is that they spent 20-30 years working on their craft, right?
10,000 hours to become an expert, right?
Yeah, and even that's like a broad generalization, right? And it's like one of those things
that happens with any profession, right? If it's something that becomes your profession, it's something that you have to want because it takes a lot of dedication, right? And you're 100% right. I don't think that the way you're describing your reaction to the tweet is demeaning in any way, right? Like,
exactly.
It is something that we all have to learn from, right? So as we're moving through life, it's you're not telling people not to try. You're just saying don't feel bad if it's not for you. If you try it and it doesn't work out, right? Because there is a lot of dedication and grind to it.
Exactly.
And like and it's not always just about the figurehead. It's also about the community you attract, right?
Sure.
Obviously you're going to attract people who hopefully look at things generally speaking the same way as you,
right.
But then within that community, like they're really a big part of what content and I'm a novice amateur content creator. Moy's better at this than I am, but I realized this the other day, Moy, that like I've been doing this almost like 4 years now, right? That we've been doing something
you still don't
related
know how to edit a video.
And I still don't know. I'm an old dude, and I'll pass it on. And Moy,
did I learn how to edit a video? Okay,
that's not the point. Sorry, that's not the point.
No, I'm sorry.
The point is that even for content creators, we need our communities, and if you're not the best, because I think you have to be like humble and witty and quick on your feet and very giving. And not everybody are these things, but if when you join a community, you might have something you can really bring to that community, and that's just as important. For a content creator, right? Is the community that's backing them. But it's not something I think you have to enter this with a great deal of humility and almost that you're serving. It's not that you're being served. You're serving. You're there for your community, and I think you do that very well. But
one last thing before to compound on that is that people, you said humility as well as talking about being genuine too, is something that is like, sure, there are a lot of quote like bigger streamers or whatever that may be super fake or like maybe they're not necessarily fake, but they can't really be genuine one-on-one anymore, because you literally can't be genuine to like 13,000 people, right? Like one-on-one type of interactions. But people will see through your bullshit like easily. Like this is a good point to make. And there have been content creators like in this sphere who they're not really around anymore. They don't stream anymore. They're not really part of like the Civ 6 community anymore, that have just been like literally like they've just been like using myself like as a soundboard, for example, when I first started to grow. And then they would complain like, why doesn't anybody watch, like a marketing soundboard. And then they would be like, well, why doesn't anybody watch my channel? This is I'm trying to put in the grind and it's just not really working. And it's like, because you're using it as a business, and people see through that 100%. Like, I stream because I love to stream. I stream because, I mean, obviously I have somewhat of a sizable ego, like not even like it's a joke, but like if you're streaming, everyone has an ego, right? Yeah. So I have somewhat of a sizable ego. I like, for people, Vince, because somewhat true, I have a huge ego, but like, but I'm also there because I know that like if people stop watching me, it's over. But I also understand that like I'm just streaming, dude. I'm just playing video games, man. You
just want to bring entertainment to people.
I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Yeah. And that's so critical, though, the authenticity. And this is true of like streaming in a way. It is a business, but you don't want to run it like it's so obvious that it's a business. You want to be your authentic self. That's why people are tuning in. It's a gift economy, right? Like you're tuning in, and if you want, you can give. You don't have to. You don't have to.
Right.
Oh man, Bose, man, I think we could talk about like
exactly.
all night.
That's why I was like, oh, let me add this last piece real quick before we move on, because I can go on for like, I've been around in streaming and stuff for over 10 years at this point, and it's like, I know too much about it, I feel like.
Last question, and I feel like this is like a one answer question. It's super simple. Sure. Give people the idea. How much time outside of streaming do you put into content creation?
Right now it's about 9 hours, or including or outside. You said outside. So an extra 4
5 hours a day, Wednesday to Sunday, right?
Wednesday to Sunday. So yeah, just like that's my Monday through Friday. So about 9 hours right now. Before I was doing it's 9 hours total. It's like 4 hours outside of streaming. Before I was doing about 6 to 7 hours outside of streaming. I just hired an editor, so that's why I brought it down to 4 hours.
Wow. Dream.
Yeah, like I was doing like 12 to 13 hour days, and that's not healthy. I mean, if I have a girlfriend who's amazing, and like, but even then, like, I could tell I was like, okay, I need to dial it back a bit, because I am doing way too much and not focusing, on us. And if I was in a different situation, maybe I could do that, but I'm not, and that's completely okay. And it takes a lot of work. It does.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to sit here and be like, it's the hardest job in the world, but it is very daunting.
Harder
especially
than
when you
it
do
seems.
Yes, it's not just like I turn on a camera and play games, right? Exactly. Like, I've for a while there, when I was doing like my Let's Play series before I kind of starting to transition into who I am now, I was doing like, I would wake up at 8, I would edit from between 9 and noon, go live at noon, and stream at 5, have dinner, and then I would, do editing in from like 6 to 9 p.m. or so, and then that would be a day. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work, which is why I can see people who like Potato McWhiskey, why they don't stream regularly, because he records 12-hour gameplay and cuts it into 45 minutes.
It's why though that authenticity is so important, because people they'll see through it, but also for you just to care, and you have your own process.
Yeah, exactly.
That you do and you follow. So
once they see right through it, they'll drop you immediately. Sorry, go ahead.
Let's take a break. No, it's very good. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to be taking questions from the community. So be sure to put in your questions now, and we will get to it. If you don't have any questions, don't worry, because we will ask those questions anyway. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Sit your butt down. Welcome back to the TheCivShow podcast, where we have special guest Boesthius. Did I get that right?
Boesthius.
Come on, dude. Like, I swear to God, every time I say it, it changes. Like, Boesthius.
He's a complicated man.
Hey, it's okay. Whenever I'm on channels and I follow for the first time, I always like to see how they're gonna try to pronounce my avatar.
Dude, they're like, there's that one guy in the show. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Nystagmus.
It's
an eye condition.
Sometimes say nuts and nystagmus.
That was one of the questions that I was asked once. Like, hey, what the heck is that? I'm like, oh, it's a nerdy. It's a really nerdy name. And my old avatar back in the StarCraft, when StarCraft 2 first came out, was asystole.
So boy, I hear you have questions for us.
Yeah, we got some community questions. If you have questions, be sure to put it in the Twitch chat right now. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, hey, by the way, we do this live on Twitch, so you should bring on your butt over here on twitch.tv/TheCivShow. Anyway, first question, really, really hard. Okay, this one comes from Hurricane TL. Who's cuter,
Hurricane
Sunny or Pip?
Sunny. Just because it's my dog.
Easy question. All right, for a real one now, and this is going to be a tough question. Is Firaxis waiting to see what humankind brings to the table before the next gen game? I'm assuming that means Civ 7, and this comes from Groovy Feet. Oh, floor's open, boys.
Yes? Question mark. I don't think they're waiting specifically for humankind, but I'm sure. My hot take, and Carl can give me a kick in the face if I'm wrong about this. I feel like humankind, the announcement of humankind, was may have spurred the release time of Frontier Pass. Maybe, I feel like I feel like I could be wrong. Could have been that they were planning on releasing it in May anyways, but I felt like humankind was announced. Then all of a sudden Frontier Pass was announced. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Let me quickly respond to that. I think Frontier Pass, to me, it seemed like a natural evolution.
Yeah.
For where the game needed to go.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But as far as humankind, I actually think this guy. First of all, I think it's good for Civ.
No, for sure.
Competition's always good.
Yes.
Competition's always good. Civ's going to go forward no matter what. I think that Civ is going to basically have this advantage where humankind is likely going to come out before Civ 7. Now I could see them maybe waiting. Civ 7 waiting.
100%.
Especially because, they just gave us Frontier Pass. Mm-hmm. They don't want to go to the well too early. I know they've learned their lesson, Civ, that you can't go to the well too early. We'll pay, but you gotta leave. I want to be soothed. I want to be sung to. Okay. So I'm hoping that we're not looking till 2021, 22. 2022 would be my hope. And in between that time, I would, because I know and they know, Civ, that we would probably pay for another pass after the Frontier Pass, because the Frontier Pass.
That's because we all love Civ 6, though.
Yeah,
this will allow humankind to come in, do their thing, okay, and Civ 7 will be able to be, and I'm sure Civ 7 is not going to change their strategy, right? We know they do the third, right? The third old, the third revised, and the third new. I have no doubt that they would do the same thing, but the third new and revised might be what's humankind doing? The advantage that they have is that I think that we Civ players are a patient group, and we would actually make time for both games.
Oh, absolutely.
And that many of us will go and buy humankind and end up playing it and trying it and what have you. So I think Civ 7 we're not going to see till 2022, and I think if Civ is smart, they'll let humankind come out first and wait. Yeah. I don't know what human when's the release date? Is it?
That's April 2021.
Yeah,
I think
April 2021.
April.
I don't think one thing is that you never let an outsider change your schedule on purpose, right?
Sure.
Like, so like if you're planning on coming up with like a Civ 7, someone else coming up with a game that's supposed to be like them themselves, like, you know, Humankind kind of threw down the gauntlet with the whole,
they
like,
did, yeah, that's true,
right? So they're the ones who called themselves that. But one thing that you don't do is you don't play into that as much. Definitely always look at what everyone else is doing and seeing if you can add your own flavor to whatever innovation that they bring. I don't think you let them dictate like when you're going to wait or when you're going to release your game either. And so I don't think they're necessarily waiting, but of course they're probably looking at what their competition is doing. To be honest, like when we did the open dev on Humankind, the one thing I thought Humankind that was interesting that I think would be cool if they brought into Civ is just the combat. The combat just seems to be a lot more depth in Humankind, like where the geography actually matters.
You can stack units almost, but not really at the same time.
Yeah. And it reminded me, and like I said this in our podcast when we talked about Humankind, which is it reminded me of an old game I used to play called Conquest of the New World, where battles were like these chess matches where you arranged the units and then each took turns with each of the units fighting each other. And then you could just retreat whenever you wanted to, right? And so like the answer to the question is I don't think they're waiting. I think they're just watching.
Yeah.
Like they're just watching what Humankind's going to do and you know, whatever they can take from it, if not, or they may just decide that Humankind's not the same kind of game really. It's advertising itself as like the Civilization kind of game, but it may not be the same kind of niche that Civilization is.
I don't know if you've played any of it since the Stadia open beta. Which is it actually might be closed now.
It's closed, I thought.
Yeah, I think it might be closed now. They were doing a week-long free open dev on Stadia this last week. And I didn't play any of it, but I watched quite a bit of stuff about it. And it's a lot more polished than it was during the open dev earlier this year. I don't know. It's still there might be just the Civ fanatic in me. The problem that I faced with Humankind is it felt empty. It felt hollow.
Slower paced. It is slower paced.
And I don't even really mind the slower pace that much because I played CK2 and I played a lot of Old World so far, and I don't mind that slower pace. It just, I think because of how, like, you know, they focus so much on like, look how pretty it is, and like that's the first thing I noticed. I played it, I was like, look how pretty this is, but it also could be because it's, you know, not a new game or it's not a full game yet. But
I think, sorry, go ahead. No, finish your thought.
I was gonna say, it just felt hollow. And it feels like I'm just like kind of playing a shell of a game which makes sense because it's an open beta. So
and like the difficulty in business, especially when, you know, this is a new entrant coming onto the battlefield, is they need to differentiate from the established game. So they need to be different enough that you feel like this is a totally 100% different game. But they also need to be similar enough that the reasons that I love Civ and put hours and hours and hours into the game, that they can offer that as well. So in the game, it's like, how do they go about that? And the thing that they're competing with is they're not competing with Civ 6. They're competing with Civ 5. They're competing with Civ 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. They're competing with, well, because like for new players, I get the learning curve for Civ is difficult, but I also feel that each Civ has a pretty good learning curve. Like each time they learn and they figure it out. But the larger portion of their market, it's the ones that they picked up from the previous edition, right? And so Humankind's not competing with Civ 6. They're competing with the entire franchise. And when if you're a Civ 3 player and you get dropped into Civ 6, there's enough similarities. You will figure it out, okay? And I know that with like anybody who's played a like I love space turn-based strategy games, right? So I love Master of Orion, stuff like that. Stellaris, though, I haven't figured it out yet because I'm waiting for these guys. We're gonna play it together. But it's very, very different from Master of Orion, which is the one that I'm used to. Am I their target market because I have to be retrained, right? So I think that's the challenge that Humankind will have, is that it has to be distinctly different enough that a Civ player would love it, but at the same time, not be Civ. It can't be. It can't be a just an alternate version of Civ.
So it can't be Civ with a new paint job that makes it like look prettier, basically.
So they obviously have their work cut out for them, but it'll only benefit all of us, right? Because they'll sink or float, and Civ will adapt, and Civ 7 will be better because of it, right?
My quick take on this is, one, we're called the Civ Show, so if Civ dies, we're screwed. Two,
when we pitch to our Civ Show fans that why we can play Master of Orion is okay, we will be saying, well, we're playing a civilization game.
It was a joke, people. Relax. No. So my take on this is that there's different strokes for different folks. There's going to be people who like Humankind. There's going to be people who like Civ 6. But they're going to be two distinctly different games. It's going to be similar to how even Call of Duty and Battlefield both exist in the same space. One may not like the other and vice versa, but there's also people who play both and that they enjoy both because it's a different style of game. You get a different feeling when you play the game, and I just think they can coexist. So one saying, like Humankind's the Civ killer, or Civ killer is not, or Civilization is better than Humankind. I think they can just both exist, and they can both grow the market of the 4X genre because they're both can be fantastic, and just everybody can benefit from this if just there are more better games in the 4X genre.
Yeah, I think it's just always better.
I hope they can coexist, but if Humankind, because it doesn't have Civ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for all of the regular players, maybe its learning curve is a bit on the end that you don't need to have known much about first turn-based strategy, and that could actually bring more people to Civ. Is if they start with Humankind, okay, I get this. Maybe I'm looking for a little bit more in depth, because obviously Humankind is thinking, we want to try and draw the market away from Civilization, but they're also like, well, we want our own pie of people who have no clue what Civilization, because as much as Civilization has Civ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at their backing, if you didn't like those formats, you would have been turned off completely from the format, the entire franchise, right? So now a game like Humankind has an opportunity where maybe it can bring people in, and I hope that's their mindset. Like, I hope they're not just like, that's not going to work, I don't think. Let's just see if we can attack the titan that is Civ. They obviously want to introduce a whole, like, they want to become the Pepsi, right? Or the new generation of the turn. I think everybody. So I take your point, Moy, that we just want more people playing turn-based strategy, right?
Big true.
Big true. Man, the amount of times I say that is just...
It's the true.
You're such an influencer, Boest. You just make me say everything that you say. Oh my god. Last question, maybe. Depending if we get some more in the chat or not, but this is a really, really good question, and this is going to spark a possibly a big discussion. What is the next big change? In Civ 5, they introduced the hex system. They turned squares to hex. In Civ 6, they introduced districts into the game. What is the next big change that's going to happen in Civ 7?
Sorry, just a correction, Moy. I think that I think it was I believe it was a two-pronger, because they also introduced these policy cards, and districts and policy cards.
Yeah, but the idea of government was there. You know what I mean?
Like, government has always been there for sure.
Going from square to hex is massive.
But yes, of course, I agree. Like,
and also getting rid of stacking.
Yeah, getting rid of stacking was huge too.
Okay, all right. I guess if we had to say that's the square to the hex would be equivalent from the not district to district. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the next? That Boes can go first.
I can start a discussion.
I wouldn't be surprised if
I know what I'd like it to be.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they add more like variants to, not just like they had it in Civ. Was it 4? Maybe it was 4. I'm trying to think of how to word this, like multi-level like building stuff. Like maybe the game doesn't end once you go to space. Like maybe how they were trying to like integrate, you know, like Civ 5 and Civ 5 Beyond Earth, like maybe you go to space and everyone has to like Anno does a really good job of this, but it also gets, the problem is it gets way too complicated to juggle that. Like where maybe you leave space and you go to your new frontier planet or whatever, and you have to start from there, and that gives you an extra 200 turns or something like that, right? Like that, I think that might be what they may do. I don't think realistically they're going to do that, but that would be a big change, I think.
That was Civ 3, I believe, or
Civ 3
that was like my first. That was my first Civ, where you can go to space and you can colonize in space and you can colonize in the water and everything like that. And space, the space victory condition was much different. I don't remember at the time because I was way too young to know how to play the game, but that was the one that I played, and definitely that would be really cool.
Butler is rating us, boy.
I think realistically.
Butler. I gotta nice here, man. Peppermint Butler.
Hi, PB.
I don't know.
I have a feeling that's probably too big of a change. They won't do that, but that would be my big change, I think.
Zoe, you said you had a big change that happened in Civ 7.
I do, and I think because Civ 7 is going to be for also another generation of computer, right?
That's
like
true.
I got my computer specifically to run Civ 6. I wanted to make sure that it ran it excellently.
4 years ago.
4 years ago. So they know that they're and likely they're dealing. They know that they're dealing with many people like myself. We can run the game. This is my console. So they're going to be waiting the next one, which would be required for what I'm about to suggest.
Okay.
I believe that one of the biggest missing pieces of Civ is the diffusion of innovation. And the diffusion of innovation, it basically it's that people, human beings, we don't stay put. I don't go and I don't found, it's not that I'm part of Rome and I'm part of Rome my whole life. Humans move around. They immigrate. They
Bye.
Of course.
See you later, dude.
He's immigrating somewhere else outside of the Discord call.
Gotta innovate a better internet
connection. If I'm gonna take that and then maybe never mind, he's back. I don't have to take that and go. Immigrate.
Okay.
Last word you said.
Okay. They immigrate. They emigrate. They move around. And I'd like to see civilization have that the actual population matters. That they are moving around. They're trading ideas, whether you like it or not. They can, and then they would have policy cards or whatever for allowing people to the flow of people. And then I want to see that when a city gets conquered, where do the refugees of that city go? Okay, I don't want it to be that it's just that the population goes down and they're all murdered.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's just not accurate. People fled cities, and it mattered in history, and it affected the shape of future nations. And it was, what was your policy on these things? Like in war, what was your policy for people fleeing to your country? But even in peace, what was your policy to people fleeing or coming to your country? And all of these things, it shaped nations, right? Like arguably, the empire, the empires of I don't know, like the Middle East. Like one thing they were really good at was they saw all Christians as Christians, right? So that wasn't all these different sects. And it just, as long as you were paying taxes and you were given certain liberties, right? Like that was a very specific. So I know that adds a super crazy layer of complexity because now you're saying that like each of the individual citizens within, and they're moving around, they have different.
One thing that I think is that
realistic.
In multiplayer and stuff, that might entice other people to join, say, wars and stuff, because then the war may not just be happening and not affecting you. The war could be affecting your civilization if you're nearby, right? From population displacement.
Yeah.
My answer to the question was a little bit more simplistic. Right now in Civ, there's only one tabletop unit that takes territory for the civilization, and that is the city. So the city is the basic unit that like divvies up the territory. I think one thing they could add is, could you build other things that are not cities to take territory or lay outposts or whatever, that would help you kind of divvy up resources and stuff. That way you didn't have to like put so much resources into just building the city. If you wanted to claim territory, you could do other things. So like another another unit that you can use to claim territory as opposed to just building a city.
I think it was Civ 3 that had this. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think they had outposts. And I think it was a very similar idea. Like you could build, I think the builder or worker could build an outpost and it would allow you to claim, but you had like, other than that, it was like, there's no people. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. The Civ 3 is a long time ago. Continue.
No, I just meant like that way. It may be another dynamic where, you don't have to put so much commitment into like claiming territory. You don't just need to make cities, which is kind of another realistic way of how things were done, right? A lot of, like when we look at maps of histories of empires, like really, like when we talk about zone of control, like even when you learned about like last better known leader, Basil II, even though you can see like the empire at its zenith under him, really on the frontiers of that empire, like control was a lot more loose, right? It wasn't it wasn't like a line in the sand kind of thing. Yeah. And I think our modern conception of borders is very biased towards that because they're a lot more settled, whereas before they were a lot more, changed day to day, basically, right? Based on who had the influence. And so this way you can have like outposts kind of jarring for influence and borders changing a lot more than just because the only way to change a border right now in the game is to take a city. Or culture bombs, but not really, right? But it's not as active. Yeah. And so this could be like another active way of changing borders and make it more fluid because it
more complex, even more complex, that it's not just a matter of it's my territory or it's your territory, right?
They kind of had something like it's like they could expand upon how they did it in Civ 5 with like how great generals take culture bombed, but they would place a citadel and then they'd culture bomb around it, and you could do that with every single great general that you had. And that could be like a unique unit that does that, right? Where like it places like you said, like an outpost from like Civ 3, right? And then it gets like it culture bombs that area, and now you're able to like mine whatever is over here, like build a plantation that's over there, or do maybe there's an outpost and you could build specific districts off of that, like things like that, where if you do that, minus the fact that you give them whatever grievances or whatever that is, they gives them a prompt to either A, don't do that again, or B, you're going to go to war, right? like things like that, or like, hey, we just saw you do that, could we maybe settle this over some diplomacy? Like you can take this land, but you have to give us like X, Y, and Z. But then at that point it starts to turn into literally like Crusader Kings.
But you bring up a good point that like the grievance system was an interesting one, but maybe they can expand upon it, right?
Ooh, that's my take. They change grievances. They
work AI a little bit more like more meaningful. Yeah,
that was a joke.
Well, like I hate, for instance, I think it's silly to even have the option, don't spread your faith in my territory. I have never ever seen, even when you have coincidentally the right amount of diplomatic points, they don't. They'll say no. They'll say screw you. I'm not doing that. It's pointless. Like, why even have it? But something speaking kind of to the population, wouldn't it be maybe kind of neat? What if populations could demand civics? What if like literally like, well, we want this civic, and if you don't get it, we're going to be unhappy. And it's just like these 3 cities demand that you take this civic, and if you don't, those 3 cities. I think that could be kind of neat that you're trying to appease
with the government,
your population.
They wanted a specific luxury. They were like, we demand sheep or whatever, right?
That was say that.
Oh yeah.
No. This would be like a specific policy card. We want you to take this policy card. Okay, not the entire Civ 5 World Congress as I call it.
How would that be influenced though? Like how would some city say we want let's say for example, like why would one city say we want fascism versus another city saying we want democracy?
So in my mind's eye, it would be something like certain policy cards are maybe attached to agendas. Okay. So your civilization might have a certain agenda, whether you like it or not. They just like these sorts of things.
Right.
They're demanding it. But then if I start conquering an enemy civilization, if you want us to cooperate with you, you've got to show us how your governance is something that we at least somewhat recognize. We demand this. If you don't do this for us, we're going to be unhappy. And it turns the civic policy cards into not just looking at your agenda, but looking at your empires. Like, well, how do I get all of these individuals to work together? I actually personally believe that's what real civilization building's about. Like, you look at Canada. Canada was literally shaped by the fact that we had French and English forced under a unified like monarchy system that said, okay, you guys are now one government, figure it out. Like, that's pretty much what happened. And it was these two very distinct, you had these Canadians on one side that were English Anglican, and you had these French on the other side that were Roman Catholic, and they were told, okay, work together, you got about even shares in votes, go. And we did it, and it shaped the entire being of our people, right? I don't know, I'd love to see something like that, that Civic shaped more your civilized, and then maybe some civs are better at that. Like, that would be something that, as a civ ability, I'm just a better mitigator of my policy cards, and I'm able to make more people happy than you who didn't do that. Okay. I don't know.
My thing that I really want them to overhaul and be really, really, really cool, religion. I think it needs a lot of work in this current state. Right now, you can only purchase 4 units, because they introduced the Guru. You can buy the Inquisitor, the Missionary, the Apostle, and the Guru. And I think it just it's a little dull. It's a little flat. There's not enough even religious like policies, I'll say, or religious beliefs that excite me. Apart from work ethic, I don't really care about the rest of them. Kind of thing. There was this thread on Reddit that I really enjoyed. It was him completely overhauling and his suggestions of how to overhaul the religious victory. Now, I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, so I have it pulled up in front of me, so I'll quickly go through it, and I kind of want to hear you guys' thoughts on it. So 1, raise the price of religious units dramatically. You can make them proportionally more powerful, but I think it's important to reduce the amount of religious units in the field at any given time. As we know, India or like other religious focused civs, they can spam the crap out of these apostles and missionaries, right? So that's one thing. 2, introduce a core/army-esque system for religion. Let's say 2 religious units can be merged to make a fellowship, and 3 can make a holy order. This would help reduce map clutter and make units more meaningful. 3, religious units...
Add the core and army feature basically to religious unit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Just to reduce the amount of total units on the screen. 3, religious units now occupy a different layer than military and citizens and cannot block their movement. I don't know what that means. I thought
what they already
it's already a thing, right?
Except for civilian units, I think civilian units block apostles and things like that. Oh no, they don't. No, I don't think so. I don't know where this person's coming.
It is already like that. I think.
Maybe they're coming from vanilla.
I don't think they should coincide with military units. That's a personal opinion, but whatever. So let's talk about even like these new faith units that could be introduced into the game. That's not just those apostle, missionary, whatever. You can introduce some military faith units like the Zealot or the Crusader even, and they're just military units but are purchased with faith or are just driven by faith or are upgraded by faith, things like that. Then there's the cultural faith units like the Patron and the Apostle, and then the scientific, which could be the Thinker and the Theologian. I think that would be kind of cool.
Theologian.
Whatever, man. I'm not good with English. English is not my strong suit, okay? If you're going to make fun of me with my pronunciation of words, then get off the podcast.
All right.
Tell me how you really feel.
No, come back. 5. Actually, I'm going to skip that one because it just kind of goes into detail of what those things are. Religious combat is kept, but is more of a... Oh my god, really? Religious combat is kept, but a more rock, paper, scissors system is introduced. The military religious units beats the scientific religious units, and then the scientific beats cultural, and the cultural beats militaristic. Kind of like that tug and pull, more religious game. And
like
then...
rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock?
Oh, shut. Oh, jeez. Anyway.
You're good, you.
That was kind of like what the suggestions were for religious overhaul.
I have a couple thoughts on this. I don't know though. Who wants to start? I'll start.
I don't care about religion and civ, so
that's why it should be overhauled.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
Okay, I think there's a fine line that has to be walked here. It's a tightrope. Okay, civ. I think only Civ 4 introduced religion, and it was relatively simple. I think I like some of the stuff I'm hearing, but at the same time, religion is more about the spreading of ideas, and I don't know how much more map time I want to see faith get, like as far as units are concerned, because they are a bit of a clutter for sure. And like of all the victory conditions, you know, this one gets its own special unit. I guess you got rock bands with culture, okay, but that's like really late game.
Yeah.
And I think that they're supposed to be comparable, right? It's supposed to be a comparable, like spreading culture, like spreading religion. I'd rather see religion go in the direction of it's about the beliefs. It's about I don't know, trying to, even like if you got more into like the population of people, trying to just manipulate, maybe the wrong word, but the thinking of people, or that when you take on a religion, you add an AI component that now you have to deal with as an empire. And it's like, yeah, we'll give you these benefits, but at the same time, we're going to have our own demands from time to time, which I think is more fitting. That, like, you know, you have just historically, you got like, you know, the church, the government, and then like the military, and like separating them. Like the church was all influence, though it wasn't, you know, until it wasn't, but it was, a lot of it was influence. So yeah. I'd like to see more that religion is about influence, the exchange of ideas. You know, that's pretty much what religion was. You know, that's what it started as. It was the exchange more of ideas. Like a city would have a god. So if I wanted to understand the city of Azure, I would worship their gods, and I would build temples there, and that would encourage merchants coming from that city. Like, I don't know. I think, look at it that way, that it's about ideas and less about physical units. I don't know how they would do that. I would almost rather, instead of military units that are on the field, I'd rather they go the other direction, make it civic stuff, and it's just like, you know, this little added, I don't know, layer.
If they went that way, they'd have to take it out as a victory condition, because I think that's the whole point that the guy was making in the Reddit, is that like,
fine. Yeah, like,
it's like since it has its own victory condition, the fact that it's so stale, it's so minute, that there's like literally you do X, Y, that's like, it's almost comparable to domination. But even with domination, you still need culture, still need science, still need all these other things. Religion, all you need is religion. You don't need anything else, which is, I guess, the point. But it's so like, it's so minuscule, and everything else, right? You build your holy sites, you get your apostles and stuff like that, and then you don't, like, sure, you may have to,
or go for like maybe combine religion and culture, and it's more about ideology. You know, that it's your just way of looking at things, and that if religion influenced you, okay, great. If blue jeans was the thing that influenced you, okay, great. You know, that's totally up to you. So I'd even rather them scale it back.
Yeah, exactly.
And make it something else. I think the tough thing here is, truth be told, as much as I hate how the computer is able to spam religious units, religious fighting like on even ground is actually a lot of fun, because we're throwing lightning bolts at each other, right?
I love the micro,
you know, of it. Yeah, so like that component is a lot of fun. I don't know, maybe if you're gonna add a layer to it, I don't know, maybe cities can do things. Maybe like cities can, like, just like a city has walls that can shoot at military units, maybe cities have like a, well, we got words for you, and they're able to like lob ideas at missionaries that are passing by. Just so you can be like, we're not letting you. Yeah, so I don't know, because though, like, this is why I was saying, like, it'd be cool if it was civics, because you might have, like, we have a civic policy, it's a different layer, and it only opens if you have faith, and it's like, we don't allow faith, or we restrict it, and it makes it harder, just like lowers your movement by 1. Or we have a free exchange of ideas, and missionaries get +1, and every time somebody tries to convert a city, your faith goes down, but you get a science bonus. You know, if there's these layers I think they could add to it to make it a lot of fun, that would encourage, let's have a religious fight that's actually about exchanging, like that actual exchange is part of it. I don't know.
So last question, this is a 4-minute, you're on a 4-minute timer, only 2 people can answer this, and I'm going to pick Zoe and Bose. Online speed or standard speed, which is better?
Standard.
That's it?
Yeah, I don't know, online's too fast. Online's, I mean, okay, maybe it's not. Maybe okay, that's a lie. I've played 2 games of online speed, so I can't even answer that correctly. But so I'm saying standard just because that's all I've played.
Light speed's too slow, so you want to go to ludicrous speed.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go plaid.
They've gone to plaid. That's why I love you, Bose, because you know what I'm talking about here. Okay,
I have no real answer if I'm being honest.
You know what? The answer is probably let's meet in between with quick speed.
Oh.
Okay, here's what it comes down to for me playing standard speed is it is a grind. Because we play every week and we've been doing this for a long time. I'm so accustomed to online speed that even when I practice online speed. Yeah. So when I play standard speed, it feels like such a grind. Everything takes longer. There's way more fighting. There's way more units attacking one another. Yeah, I guess, but like I'm the type, and I'm not like a lot of Civ players. I don't play every game to the end. I will get to a point in a game and I'll be like, nah. Or just like, I'm bored, I'm done. I will not play every single game to the end. In fact, there's very few games that I'll actually finish. So for me, it'll more so be, I want to try this out this time. I want to try this out this time. I want to try this out this time. And I'll get to a certain point and I'll be satisfied. Like I'll be in modern era and like, it's big enough and I survived this long. And it's like, yeah, I could win this. It's going to take me, a lot of more clicks. I'd rather just start a new game. Yeah, so when I play standard speed, sorry, what was that?
I was just saying the age-old board game problem was like, you've won, so what's the point?
Exactly. When I play standard speed, especially if it's a challenge where I have to do something like, I don't know, domination victory, it's just like, oh my God, another click, click, another click.
The answer to the question to the point is like when you've already known you've won, but trying to get like that sub 200 turn win or something that, right?
I guess. And that's the only that's what I needed. I needed an outside. It wasn't Civ. It was VectorCat. I needed VectorCat saying, here's what you get, and you get bonus points. And then I was like, all right, I started it and I finished it and I did it. But it was hard. The last 2 to 3 hours of the game, I was just like, oh God. Especially I had dramatic ages on. I maintained every one, but that was not easy.
Do you think that's also influenced by when you play online speed and multiplayer, games are usually conceded before the actual end of the game? Because I feel like
that's why he enjoys it more. But honestly, I think most of our games, if we had played for 2 more hours, it would be declared. We would know.
The same problem that you play with Risk. Has anyone here actually played a game of Risk where it's gone right to the very last territory to be taken?
No. Yeah,
right. Exactly. Almost everyone concedes at some point. It's just like, oh yeah, it's overwhelming force. There's no way I'm going to win, right?
I think that's pretty typical of multiplayer games too. It makes sense. Yeah.
So let's wrap this up. I want to have this moment for you, Bose. Where can the people find you on social medias? Say whatever you want at this point. Promote whatever you want. This time is for you. Whatever you want.
Anything.
I love you.
Okay.
So you guys can find me on mostly every Wednesday through Sunday at 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/Boesthius. That's twitch.tv/BOESTHIUS. I am taking this week off, however. I will not be streaming until this upcoming Monday. And then you can also find me on youtube.com/C/Boesthius, twitter.com TL_Boesthius. I can't change that because I changed my name from Boesthius to TL Boesthius when I was doing Team Liquid stuff. And then someone took that account and suspended it. So now I can't change it to regular just Boesthius. So but that's where you can find me. There I also have a Discord if you would like to join that. And if you're not in the TheCivShow's Discord right now, what is wrong with all of you?
Wow, you took the time to promote us. That's so kind of you.
But yeah, that's where you can find me at. Stream every Wednesday through Sunday. YouTube videos are getting uploaded. They've doing pretty well. So that's me.
What's your next video?
It depends. My editor currently is working on a video of my drunk stream. So it's either going to be that video or, as I talked about earlier, I am doing a tier list of the music from Civilization 6. I'm doing each of the themes in their respective eras, or which I think which era I think is the best from each Civ. So I'm picking, because if I didn't, there would be 250 something songs that I'd have to go through, because there's right now currently I think 50 Civs out at the moment, 48 or 50 Civs. So picking 4 eras and then including their ambient themes, this is too much. So I picked whatever era has the best song, and then I'm ranking those. So that's a lot of work. It started off just, I was originally just going to do, oh, this is A tier, this is S tier. Now I've written like a whole paragraph review of each song, so it's very in depth at this point.
Right on. If you haven't already, go follow Boast. He's a great dude. He's he is fantastic. I'm speechless. This guy's too good. I have no words to describe how amazing.
Did we just become best friends?
I don't know.
Yup.
So if you haven't, though, you should follow us on Twitter. We're at TheCivShow. We post good memes, and we also post really good content. You should follow us at twitter.com/TheCivShow or at TheCivShow.
But, Twitter's great and all with its characters and what have you. But if you want to meet some real characters, I suggest you come down to the Civ Show Discord. It's the watering hole, all right? It's where we all gather throughout the week. We have great discussions among some amazing people. So please check us out on the Civ Show Discord.
5 out of 10, not as good as Bose's promotion of our Discord. And we also make other content as well on YouTube. All 3 of us now do so. So I do the series Better Know a Leader, where I do a kind of a quick 8-minute video on each leader. Last one was Basil II of Byzantine Empire. The next one is going to be Suleiman of the Ottoman Empire. And Moy does kind of videos that are more miscellaneous. He talks about many different things during his videos. And we have Raising Reviews now as well. That's another video series. So check that out. Give us a subscribe and let us know what you think.
And soon we're going to have a show. It's called Zoe and Bows. And we just talk. Half hour, any subject. Okay, it's going to be great.
The thing is, we're not talking to each other. We just like talking about a subject, and it's like a hard cut. It's you talking about a subject.
It's gonna be like a segment with like Harry Carey or something like that. Just like,
I'm Harry Carey.
And we like civilization.
But before we go, I gotta know.
Yeah.
Was this experience like a great experience or the greatest experience?
0 out of 10. It was fantastic. It was great. Like, I love podcasts. I also like talking about things I'm interested in. So it was a lot of fun. I was very, very happy to be here. 10 out of 10 on Rice would do again. Sorry, that was a really deep cut Reddit meme. I'm sorry. Thank you.
And Bose, I heard there a rumor about something called CivGive. Are you part of that? What's that all about?
Boy, you want to know about CivGive? Let me talk to you about CivGive. CivGive is for those that are in chat and do not know, CivGive is a charity event that people from the Civilization 6 community are putting on December 20th at 4 p.m. Oh, I forgot.
Eastern.
It's 4 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, I got it. Yes, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Myself, all 3 of you lads, we have Foibles, 100 Games, Peppermint Butler, and Michael from OnSpot TV. All of us will be there. Who did I not say?
Van Bradley.
And Van Bradley. Yes,
Van Bradley.
Yes, Mr. Bradley. We'll all be playing a free-for-all in Civilization 6 for raising money for Extra Life, which is a fantastic charity. So, yeah. December 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern time. You get to see us banter, yell at each other, and raise money for the kids. Kids.
Can we get a round of applause for Bose? Bose, thank you for coming on the podcast, dude, and being part of the stream. Really appreciate it. Go follow Bose.
Bose, do you have a recommendation for who we should raid when the show comes to a conclusion?
Let's look. Let's see who's. Let me see.
Whatever you want, Bose, it's yours. We will raid whoever you want.
Let's go raid Ninja. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go raid Foibles. He's currently streaming at the moment.
Let's go raid Foibles. 100%. 100%. I agree with that.
Thank you guys for having me on.
No problem. Anytime, Bose. You want to be a guest? You hit us up, dude. It's been great. Okay, that's fine with us. All right, see you guys in the next one.
Good night.
Have a good night.